So back in Power BI Desktop, I'll go to the Home ribbon here, and then I'll go to the Transform Data section to go back to the query editor. As mentioned already, loading the data can take a while, so once this is finished, in your case, please go to the dim age table here. And in this table, I now want to use the M language. Now to dive into this language step by step, let's get started with the formula bar. It's this bar here. I mentioned this already throughout the course. This bar basically shows you all the steps applied here in the applied steps column, which are basically all steps performed via, well, clicking the different functions, the different features in Power BI Desktop. So this is the visual representation of the steps, so to say, and this is the underlying code, the underlying language that was executed. In case you can't see this formula bar, you can go to the View ribbon here and then select Formula Bar. So this should be selected. And you can also expand the formula bar by clicking onto this lower arrow here. There, in case you want to, well, add more code to it, you can do this manually. If you look at this formula, well, a bit closer though, you see that not all steps are displayed here though. You see that we have some kind of table transformation going on. So we extracted text before the delimiter, which happened right here. And then we changed the format of the age min column, so this column here, to an integer. So if I would select another step, this one right here, then you see that also the underlying code changes. So you only see the latest steps here in that actual formula bar, but you can also find all the steps applied here in the Applied Steps column via the so-called Advanced Editor. This editor can be found in the Home ribbon here, and if you select it, you see what actually was applied to our table from a code perspective, so to say. Now, as you see, this is basically a lot of action going on behind the scenes here, and the good news is that you don't have to know all these different steps by heart. The query editor is made in a way that using this M language, well, can be done if you want to, but you can actually perform many or the majority of the typically required preparation tasks without actually diving into this M language. Nevertheless, I would like to show you how to use the M language, or at least part of it, on your own. Therefore, we will close this advanced editor now and also collapse this again. And now in the dim age table, I'll create a new column, which will basically be a combination of the age group column here and our age category. So the result should be a new column where the first row contains 0 to 4 baby, the second row 5 to 9 child, and so on. To do this, we go to the Add Column ribbon here, and there we'll now create a new so-called custom column. We can select this now. Oh, and be careful, this is my bad here. We don't want to insert this step, so let's cancel this and select the latest step here in the Applied Steps column. So always be careful here. So now we'll go to the custom column option. And there, well, we can now do whatever is required to get the desired result. The first thing I'll do is I'll give this column a name, and I'll call this MH combined, because we use the M language to create a combined column in the age table. This is, of course, not a column that we need in the actual visual later. And now we can add a so-called custom column formula. Now, this formula here can be very simple and can become very complex. For example, if you would enter the table keyword, then you see that you have many options to interact with your current table that is loaded in Power BI Desktop. Nevertheless, as I mentioned before, the M language is not required to actually work in the query editor. Therefore, I'll focus on an easier way to use the M language here. So I'll just say that I want to combine two different columns. So I'll select the age group column here via double click. And as you see, the code is automatically added. And now, as we want to combine two different columns, I can simply also select the second one. So for example, the age category, and instead of the double click I just did for the age group, you can simply select the column right here and press insert. Then this is also added to the custom column formula window here. Now, with this in place, we added some very basic M language code, so to say here. And by clicking OK, this results in an error. The problem here is that if we again go to our custom column that we just created by clicking onto the gear wheel symbol, that combining two columns like this is not working here in the query editor. To combine two columns which contain text here, as we have it in our case, you need to add the AND symbol 2 times, like this. And now we still get the error, but now by adding 2 quotation marks, we simply add the content of these 2 columns without any gap between these. So to add the gap between the content of the 2 columns, we can simply add a space between the quotation marks. With this, the syntax is correct, and if we now update our query here, our formula, so to say, then this is successfully added. By the way, in case you have a red bar here, or any kind of error, just make sure to select another table and then come back to this one. This should fix this bug we talked about in the course already. With this in place, we can now actually leave the query editor with close and apply. And now, as we are back in the data model, we can now do the same thing, but with DAX instead of the M language now.